and you're listening to The Breakfast Show here on Faith FM, joined by myself, Lawson. We have Dr. Dan in the studio, finishing up some brekkie, looking like a good choice pick of the brekkie in front of you, man.
Following the 10 choices for a full life.
Yeah, we'll get into that giveaway in some time in the future. But before we do, we need a quiz question. Please, producer Shell.
In what river did John the Baptist baptize?
Okay, now we're on the...
Now we're getting an easy one in here for you. We've got a correct answer coming through.
We got the sympathy questions.
We've got them right. Well done.
If you know
Dan,
the answer.
I really need you to make that font bigger for me, man. I'm old.
All right. It's going bigger.
Hey, 0491 064 669 is the number to text if you know the answer to that one. What was it? One more time, producer
In
Shell.
what river did John the Baptist baptize? I'm not really that old. My eyes aren't that good. I'm just going to clarify. I still feel very young in most ways.
My eyes are failing me too.
Dude, I can still see good, you know? But I reckon, because I'm the case. I had... The last time I was tested, my eyes were tested, I had better than perfect vision.
Better than perfect?
So there's perfect vision, which is 20/20, and I had 20/10, which is that I could see farther. So I could see, well, people usually are able to see at 10 meters, I could see at 20 meters.
Yeah, wow.
But honestly, I don't feel as though my eyes are as good as they were before. Like, I already feel like I'm hitting some level of decline a little bit. There's sometimes where I'm like quite far from something and I'm having to like from where I usually could just read it easy, I'm having to like, you know, just hit a little bit of a squint and whatnot. So I'm
You're feeling age.
I'm feeling age already. I'm only 27, but that's pretty much off the hill, you know, over the hill by that point. Like there's nothing will get better from here.
You're getting very close to half my age.
Okay. Really?
Actually, none of those. Sorry. No. My maths is terrible.
I was surprised by you saying
you've exceeded half my age.
Yeah, by the time that the older that I get, the more I exceed half your age because, you know, the fraction, you know, with the difference between us stays the same, but we just both increase.
The ratio gets smaller and closer and closer.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah. Was there a point where I was less than half your age? Well,
absolutely. Not too far. Not when we first knew each other, it definitely.
Probably, yeah. But now less so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're listening to The Breakfast Show here on Faith FM, and it's high time for us to jump into the book of Joshua, and we've been reviewing, you know, perusing through this farewell address that Joshua gives to the people. He is, as we read yesterday, old and advanced in age. You know, he's hit Dr. Dan's age, and he said, you know what, guys, it's the end of my time here.
I think he was a bit older than I am currently now.
I think, how old would he have been? Well, he would have been over 80. So he would have been about 90 years old.
I think so. Yeah.
At this time. And this is when because it was 80 when they began their conquest. So it's almost 90 years old is the age of Joshua at this point. And he's giving a farewell address to the people here in Israel. Well, specifically to the elders and their heads and their judges and their officers. So these various people, you know, looking after the tribes and the clans and all of these various things, he's addressing them as they will be taking up the mantle in his absence of the, you know, political leaders and visionaries of Israel. We had read yesterday, well, firstly, that, you know, the first encouragement that he gives them is that, hey, like, the Lord has done all of these things for you. Like, it has been God who has achieved all of this. It's not
me.
Not me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like an old guy. It's God who has consistently come through for you guys and has enabled you, has provided you victory and enabled you to experience the peace that they're going through at the moment. And this is how the chapter opens is, hey, it's been a while. God has given them rest in Israel. They're chilling out in their own lands, you know, building their farms, building their houses. Like, this would be such a moment where, they're all laying down their kind of, what will be their ancestral trademark or, trades going forward, some being shepherds, some being, vineyard planters and owners, and some planting wheat and being agricultural farmers in that sense. Like, this is the moment where they're setting those roots and those boundaries down and beginning to become Israelites in a nation of people that inhabit the land here. And Joshua here is addressing them and giving them a vision for the future, starting with what God has done for them in the past, saying, hey, it's been God who has done all of this for you. Truly, he has delivered you. He's provided for you. He's given you this rest. It's been God. I've just been someone who follows him, but it's been God. Now, I pick it up in verse 6. Do you want to start to read for us? Because I love this next verse. This is powerful stuff. So pick it up for us in verse 6. Let's have a read.
This is a word that comes up a lot. Therefore, be very courageous to keep and to do. The word that comes up a lot is courageous.
Yeah.
To keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, lest you turn aside from it to the right hand or to the left.
Yeah, read verse 7 as well.
And lest you go among these nations, these who remain among you, you shall not make mention of the name of their gods, nor cause anyone to swear by them. You shall not serve them, nor bow down to them.
Yeah, read verse 8 as well. Finish that sentence.
But you shall hold fast to the Lord your God, as you have done to this day.
Okay, so the opening line here, and what he's encouraging them to do, says,
follow the law of Moses and don't follow the heathen nations around you.
Yeah. He makes a clear distinction. He's like, hey, you're going to be among the nations. Don't say the names of their gods. Don't even say it. Don't even utter it. Don't even mention it. Don't put it in your mind. Don't put it on your lips. Don't have anything to do with it. Now, we know that this call was not necessarily very successful and didn't last long. But I love how this opens. It says, be very courageous to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses. Now, in this context, all that is written in the book of the law of Moses is it becomes their civil, moral code, their history becomes something that they deeply embrace and whatnot. But what do you think it means here? Why do they need to be courageous to keep the law? What do you think that looks like? What do you think it means?
So keeping the law isn't just about following the do's and the don't, or the don'ts of the Ten Commandment. There is courage involved in not committing murder, as paradoxical as that seems.
Yeah,
there is courage because there's times when that would be the easy way out. But courage here is talking about obeying God in full, like honoring God when the popular tide of cultural, norms and practices and popular, trends are to not worship God. There is so much pressure in society today, as there was back then, to not put God first. And so this is where courage comes in, to put God first.
Yeah. I could see a number of situations in which there needs to be a great deal of courage to be able to do this. The first one is obviously like in the face of their enemies, right? The face of an enemy who is going to come and, try to destroy them, try to lead them astray, whatever it may be, and to have some courage to not be susceptible to either the military, violent kind of pressure that they'll put on you for heeding God, or the other side of it is maybe the social temptation or allurement, the monetary allurement, of like, oh, hey, if you do this, like, we'll pay you, whatever it may be. There was a need to have courage in that situation to stand for what they believed in against those who disagree with them. But I think that there is another step, and I think what Joshua is really getting at here, the courage would be even greater. Like, they would need a greater level of courage when unfaithfulness to God would start ravaging the camp. And when it's not the enemy out there, but it's your neighbors and your friends and your family who are within your gates, when they start being disobedient And when they make it culturally viable and acceptable to reject, the aspects of obedience to God, and you need to side against those who you're closest with,
that's where courage is needed.
Yeah, there would need to be a great deal of courage here.
And we can relate to that in our whatever context we're in. But think of our local church context. There is pressure to not stand out as the stickler for law keeping,
or obedience to God. Yeah.
If somebody says, "Oh, look, God didn't actually mean that when He said don't do this or do this," there's the principle here is broader, and I can apply it this way, and I can actually do the thing or not do the thing, and still uphold God's God's character or whatever. There's so much pressure to just go along with it and not to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Look, sometimes there's an aspect of it because where my mind went was particularly in a situation maybe where, there is someone that you could consider maybe more experienced of a higher level than you in terms of their knowledge and understanding and whatnot. And then they say something to do something, or they advocate for something or a position or whatever that seems to be wrong. But because of maybe their status or their relationship to you, you feel like, but because of who they are, maybe I need to do the right thing. I know that this kind of pressure can come to people from family in particular, like, whether it's a parent or something like that.
So this is where courage is called for and what Joshua is asking for. Now, you might be thinking, obedience isn't the main thing about the Christian walk, is it? It's we need to believe. But obedience is kind of Old Testament. It's interesting that in the New Testament, obedience and belief are interchangeable. And the Apostle Paul writes that we should obey the gospel.
Yeah.
And both Paul and Peter say that we should obey the truth. Normally we think of the truth and the gospel as things that we believe.
Yeah.
But they write about obeying it. And for them, obedience and belief were just two sides of the same coin. Like you can't obey without believing, and you can't believe without obeying, according to the Bible.
Yeah, that's right. I really concur with you, and that's because when we see in the Bible, because now we're jumping out of what Joshua was saying, and we're jumping into applying it today, and particularly in the area of, how does this affect my standing before God? How does this affect my status as a person, whether saved or not? And this is this is a big question for people that are Christian. It's also, I think, a necessary question for people that are considering becoming Christian, because I think you should be asking the question, if you're considering God, it's like, well, what does it look like to follow Him, right? What does it actually look like to have God in my life? Because unfortunately, it looks different for a lot of people. The reason I say unfortunately is because it can get quite confusing.
It can, yeah.
And it can send mixed messages, of, what does it actually look like to be a person with God present? Unfortunately for some people, it looks like leading a complete double life and harming lots of people as a result. I think of... particularly the findings that came out of the Royal Commission here in Australia, and that these institutions that were seen as godly and bastions of the truth and whatnot, it turns out that they were full of terrible, awful risks and harm towards particularly children. And when you see something like that, it's like, oh man, okay. The natural question should be, if we're thinking about it from a specific realm, is like, so were those people actually saved? Like, were those people actually representing God? And there's a huge conversation to have there. And so now we're getting into this realm of, okay, so what does it actually look like to be, a follower of Jesus? And this is the big question we're asking here, is obedience to God's commandments a part of that, or is it not, because of the way that some people act and the way that some people, the things that some people say?
And this is the tension, isn't it? Because we all have sinful natures. We're all tempted. We all fall, and we all are imperfect representations of God's character and true obedience to His law. And thankfully, we're not held to a standard of perfection in order to be saved. Jesus' perfection covers us, and all we need to do is trust our lives in his hands.
That's right. I love how the Bible makes it absolutely clear. It says, all that call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. And this is the beautiful mercy of the gospel that, hey, it's from our admission of who Jesus is. And you could say, like, you can extrapolate that out to, you know, people calling out to God, people, you know, in the most strangest of circumstances, so far from God, don't even know the name of Jesus, but they're calling out to something greater and they're saying, like, God, like, are you there? I want to follow you. I want to live a life of meaning and peace and whatnot. Like, in those moments of calls, like, God can see that and can work with that and can save people through that.
Absolutely. So the thing that I think, and we'll come back to this after, we'll have a song break shortly, but I want to explain a little bit more about this idea of believing and obeying as being almost the same thing, because that almost says, oh man, are we saved by our obedience? Because we're, you know, all you need to do is believe.
That's right.
We'll come back to that, and we'll come with a good resolution of how that works.
Absolutely. It'll be really good.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
A quiz answer and a quiz question, please, producer Shell.
Let's do it. So our quiz answer for our third quiz question: in what river did John the Baptizer baptize? It was the Jordan River.
That's true. That's John the Baptizer. That's actually a thing.
John the Baptizer. Drinking appetizer, baptized. Right, so yeah.
The Jordan River.
The Jordan River. Hey, what are we looking at next?
All right. Although not mentioned by name, the lesser light to rule the night created by God refers to what object?
I'm going to be cheeky, but I'll put the answer in as well.
We've got it. Lawson's not correct.
Yeah. Oh, really? Wait,
he knows the answer.
So it's not satellites? Hold on. Elon Musk, Tesla, the Tesla. You know, remember he sent a Tesla into space? No, well, he sent a Tesla into space.
Wow.
This is like 5 years ago now.
Oh, so, I missed that.
Yeah. Is this it? The space Tesla? Is that the answer?
I think that definitely is a lesser light.
Okay.
But no, that is not the one that is to rule the night.
I just realized I misspelled his name and I wrote Elon Musk, which is
that's a bit of a play on words.
Yeah. Hey, let's not jump into it.
All right, our phone number is 0491-064-669. And that question again, although not mentioned by name, the lesser light to rule the night is referring to what object?
If you know the answer, send us a text through again, 0491-064-669. You're listening to The Breakfast Show, and we had started our conversation talking about here in Joshua, his farewell address, asking them, calling them, pleading with them to be very courageous in order to keep what was written in the book of the law of Moses, to keep their law, to stand for their principles, their values, what was true according to God, to stand for it, to have the courage to do it no matter what. And we've been extrapolating that out into
courageous
our day
obedience.
You know,
what does that look like?
Is that even what God's asking us to do?
Well, looking at the history of the children of Israel, it went well for them when they did obey, and it didn't go well for them when they didn't obey.
Yeah.
And so that's a clear pattern in Scripture. Is that just an Old Covenant thing? Is that just how things worked in the Old Covenant, but now in the New Covenant, no, all we need to do is believe and not obey at all? So the New Covenant is actually written in a way, and it's written in Jeremiah 31, so it's not just New Testament. It's written that God will write his law on our hearts. And so we will be naturally in harmony with his law and his character, his principles, because it's on our hearts. It's not talking about a total separation of law from our lives. But here's the thing. I think modern Christianity has so elevated this idea of all we need to do to be saved is believe, that we have lifted the idea of belief or faith into having merit for our salvation. It's my belief or my faith that gets me across the line to be saved. Where that's actually not biblical. The thing that has merit, the only thing that has merit for our salvation is Jesus, his grace.
Yeah.
My belief is totally imperfect. It's inadequate. The Bible describes it as filthiness. Like and there's a good example of the guy that said to Jesus, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." That describes the human capacity to believe adequately in Jesus. Our belief, our faith is inadequate. Yet our faith and belief are they're not exactly the same as obedience, but in the Bible, faith, belief, and obedience and works are kind of interchangeable to the point where when we're putting our life in God's hands and we're choosing to accept his gift of salvation, our response to that gift of salvation is exercised through faith and obedience, like through belief and obedience. And so you read through Hebrews 11 and you can see when it describes all the heroes of faith, and it includes Joshua in there. I don't think he's named, but he's the story of Jericho and the walls falling is mentioned by name, called out. The actual story, the reference there, and so it says by faith all of these guys did their thing, and that's a pattern for us. So in Hebrews, the stories of the Old Testament, they all did what they did. They obeyed through faith. By faith, they did all of these things. So they don't. Then it's not like their example of obedience to the law is somehow foreign to Christian life now. It's the template that's being called out in Hebrews 11, the hall of faith, for us to follow. Yeah, faith actually works and does these things. Faith obeys. That's what faith looks like.
I'm so on board, and I really wholeheartedly agree. This is the formula that God has given us. This is what it looks like.
There's one. Keep going, but there's one thing I want to come back to, and that's in Ephesians 2 verses 8 and 9. Mm-hmm. And we're hoping we're online here.
Yeah.
We are.
Good. We're doing our thing.
Okay. Good. There's new systems here, and they may or may not be failing us, but. Thankfully, we're still talking and we're still transmitting. So the thing that brings this together for me is Ephesians 2 verses 8 and 9, where it says, "For by grace you are saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast."
Yes.
So that there's two things in Ephesians 2 8 and 9 that our salvation isn't of. One is works, and that's clear, not of works. The other thing is our faith. Salvation isn't of our works or of our faith. Yeah. The thing that it's of is Jesus, his grace.
It's Jesus, yeah.
So our faith and our obedience, neither are adequate to be meritorious with God. But all we can do is just say, "Lord, I choose you." And that's what Joshua is asking for. Yeah. He's asking for wholehearted commitment and choice to follow God in all things. Yeah. We can't do it perfectly. And that's where Jesus' grace and his grace comes in, his forgiveness. And that applied in the Old Testament times and today. But our response to that is to choose to follow. That's wholehearted obedience and belief.
That's right. And that wholehearted obedience and belief, the center of that is Jesus, the one who works in you, the hope of glory, Christ in you. Like, this is the greater point that's then made is, okay then, so and particularly in the book of Romans, these rhetorical kind of questions would be asked by Paul himself. He'd say, okay then, so because of this belief that centers around Jesus, or this faith that centers around Jesus, or this mercy and grace that comes from Jesus, like a number of different times he asked this question, should we then just chuck out works? Should we chuck out the law? Should we chuck it? And he says every single time, certainly not, God forbid. And he creates this a different paradigm for us that's like, no, actually, like, because you're saved by grace, and your faith and your actions and your obedience and works are given to you by Jesus. It's the work of God in you. These things should actually be perfected. These things should be present. These things should be active. One of the more quoted Old Testament passages by Paul in the New Testament, he quotes Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4 a number of times.
By faith.
The just shall live by faith, right? He quotes it in Romans, in Galatians, and in Hebrews, which are all books we just referenced, because they really, all of them revolve around this idea of faith and works and what does it look like. And he quotes for a number of times, he quotes, the just shall live by faith. He quotes this from Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4. Now, it's interesting when you read that verse in chapter 2 and verse 4, it says, behold the proud, his soul is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. The just shall live by his faith. Now, it's interesting because wouldn't the New Testament authors and writers and the theology that they're sharing, wouldn't it contend against that? Like, but isn't our faith and righteousness like bad? Like our righteousness is like filthy rags. Our faith is not enough. And so then there are some modern scholars who contend with the language of this verse, and they say what's actually being communicated is not just our faith, but it's also our
the faith
of
Jesus
in God,
Christus
in Jesus, right? Yeah. It's the faith of Jesus himself working in us. And so the beautiful message that comes through here when you know, in getting this back to home, getting this back to Joshua, when Joshua says, be very courageous, the courage of faithfulness, the faithfulness itself, the obedience, the law, like all of it comes from and revolves around and is enabled by Jesus himself. And I love what you've said here. God is asking us to choose. God is asking for buy-in. He's asking us to say, like, hey, I'm making the conscious decision that my life would reflect God, and I'm allowing God. And this is why that decision is so important, because we're not just saying, God, I'll do it all, because then it's based on us. We're actually saying, God, I'm letting you in to do it through me. That's the significance of the choice, and why the choice itself is so necessary, and why things always went wrong when they stopped making that choice, because it's all of a sudden they didn't have the actual power to choose to go against their evil and sinful nature, to choose to not be tempted by, you know, the frequent temptations that are around us. All of a sudden they didn't have like the actual literal power of Christ working in them. And this is the courageous aspect. It's like, hey, be courageous to just always choose Jesus, to continually choose, you know, him to reign in you and be present in you. The message then that we're getting here, and this is one that I love, and this is one that I think is the actual liberating, freeing message of the gospel. Some people would suggest that it's, oh, you just get to do whatever you want now and be saved. That's a terrible message, because that's actually a message of bondage. Bondage to sin. It's saying, oh, you know what? Like, you get to do whatever you want. So that's like hurt others, hurt myself in sin. No.
And thumb your nose at God. He's given us a blueprint of what's best for our lives.
That's right.
And to say, oh, we don't care about what God's said for health and happiness, we're going to do it our way. That is the ultimate statement of disbelief.
That's right. The actual message of true gospel freedom is God saying, hey, for once in your life, you actually get to choose. You get to choose to be something that isn't sinful, selfish, self-seeking, and hurtful to yourself and others around you. You get to choose it because I am going to do it in you. It's impossible for you to do it. You can't do it of yourself. I'm actually giving you freedom now to be righteous. I'm giving you freedom to, not to be righteous, to experience the righteousness of me and feel what it's like to be righteous because I'm working in you. I call this, you know, when I study the Bible with people, I colloquially have dubbed it I call it the win-win-win of faith. And those wins are, firstly, Jesus has hung on a cross and died for you. Secondly, he's shown you, you know, once you accept this amazing sacrifice, he's shown you then how to live a better life. And thirdly, he's giving you all of the necessary power and ability to be able to do it because you can't do it by yourself. He's given a necessary, not just ability in kind of like a self-power sense, but also the external blessings of community, of, you know, time spent, you know, with others, the church, these kinds of things. I call that the win-win-win deal of faith, that it is awesome. Jesus is the one doing all the work. He is the center of this process of salvation. Yes, we are the you can say the object that this all gets applied to, and this gets done for, but this is all revolving around, all the obedience, everything. It all comes back to Jesus, and again, when we consider that statement to be courageous to obey, that is based on Jesus's own courageous merit, that he has earned from his own decisions, from his own faithfulness, from his own, perfect sacrifice that he's made. And now we just get to buy in. We just get to choose. We just get to say, you know what, like this is who I want to be. And this is what Joshua is calling them to. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't think that there's anything else that anyone else can provide you, any kind of comfortability, any kind of love or social acceptance that they can provide you that's better than what I'm offering you. No, what I'm offering you, like, is better.
It's the blueprint. It's the best.
It's the best of it all. So be courageous to choose it.
And so he's going into some detail that we may or may not get to of how to protect our ability to remain obedient. And he's talking about, don't make any compromises, don't make any alliances with these nations around you, and don't intermarry with them. Don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. And that's a principle that's upheld again in the New Testament. And this is for, if this all enables us, gives us good boundaries to protect our ability to remain obedient and faithful to God to the best of our ability, knowing that our ability to obey and to follow God is totally
inadequate.
All of the merit in this equation that leads to our salvation is in Jesus. There's nothing, and that's why in the New Testament there's so many times where it says not of law, or the works of the Lord don't do anything for our salvation. That's all talking about merit, because in a lot of cases these early Christians and the Old Testament Christians, Old Testament believers, had been trusting in works of the law as meritorious, and that is a dead end. You're not going to find any merit in your obedience.
And you know what's interesting? Like, those who I think would consider themselves the farthest from God, but also like close to him. I'll explain this, but they still operate under a merit system today. What I mean by that, there's a number of times, like, I've had conversations with very, classic secular Australian people who aren't religious. And, but, I think, like most people, are wise enough to understand that we live in a world that we can't explain its origins. And they're like, okay, so there must be like a God out there. And the way of life that we live here in Australia is based on like Christian ethics and standards. So it's likely probably the God of the Bible. They'll say something along the lines of, like, look, I don't do the whole church thing. I'm not a Christian, but I'm a pretty good person. So like, I should just be in. That's living by merit. That is a merit, but that is not the God that we follow. What God is asking for is, hey, no, I'm actually the one who does all the work. Just identify with me. Be my child.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
Producer Shell, what was the answer to that last quiz question?
Our last quiz question for today, the answer was moon. That is the lesser light to rule the night. Couple of easy questions in there today.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for that, Shell.
I gave the hardest one early on, I think.
Yeah.
I thought the second one was hardest. The Lamentations.
Yeah. Look, we went 1 for 1 on the harder questions,
true.
on the Lamb of God and then the Lamentations. But hey, who's counting at the end of the day? We're just here for the fun of it, and we hope that you are being blessed as well by our quiz questions and by our radio show as we're trucking on to the end of the year. And speaking of the quiz answer here, speaking of the sun and the moon and the stars and our solar system, and it is a great time on the nice summer nights to get out and, maybe do a hike or drive into somewhere that's really secluded, no light pollution, and just have a look up at the sky and see all the beautiful
The Milky
stars
Way.
and whatnot. You guys wouldn't get lots of light pollution out of your
No,
place.
we see the Milky Way clearly at night.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
that's
it
the
is great.
dream. That is the dream. And so, hey, look, we are wanting you to have that experience with God's nature and creation. So yeah, get out into some nature and creation.
Come along to our Christmas party next year and you'll see it. No.
That's right. Hey, text in for an invite. We're offering 5 of them. So 5, I don't know. I'm offering them. I don't really have any say.
You won't even be here.
You're welcome.
Guys,
You're still welcome.
We will let you come to our Christmas party every year if you want to.
You just reminded me that there's basically no repercussions to my actions.
There are, buddy.
If whatever I do on the breakfast show, I can just get away with it. We just got a new computer system. If you want the old one, hashtag computer, send it through. Hey, we've got some. Oh, dude, I should. How can I? Now I'm plotting. I'm thinking, how can I get producer Shell off for one morning before we finish up for the year, just so I can go wild? Whoever they get to replace her, I can just gaslight them.
You know what you could do? You could say, Shell, I know you've been working so hard just getting the computer working again. Why don't you let me just produce for you one day and you just sleep in? I'll say, yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be a world you'd love to live
Produce
in?
and host at the same time. Can you do both?
We've been there, bro. I've done it.
He's done it
I've done
before.
it a few times.
Cool.
Yeah. Such is life, that's how it rolls sometimes. Sorry, Shell, that was really humorous that, you thought that I was going to do that for you before the show ends at the end of the year. Guys, this is my farewell tour. This is about me. So I don't know if I'm wanting to pick up more work. No, look, I'm just trolling. I'm just goofing around. I'm just unhinged, This is, final moments. I mean, I still have a couple days left for the show for the end of the year. But yeah, for those who haven't caught it, I'm going to be finishing up after quite a bit of a tenure. I've been permanent since 2021 here on The Breakfast Show. I'm finishing up at the end of the year. Not to go on to things brighter and better. Producer Shell's laughing at the text line. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure that it's...
Yeah, someone has sent in. Carlo, I'm sorry, you cannot have my computer.
Carlo sends through hashtag computer. Send it again, Carlo. Look, I'm putting a guarantee on that one. Nah, that's rude. Am I getting the station into legal trouble by guaranteeing things that we can't actually give away?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And the next one is Producer Shell's car.
Because I was saying, no, I'm at the top with you. I think we're covered.
Yeah, okay. I'll see you in court. Anyways. Hey, we're finishing up the show and just touching on as well, Joshua's words to be courageously obedient and how that centers around Jesus. I say to people when I give Bible studies, particularly regarding, quite big lifestyle changes that happen in a person's life when they decide to follow Jesus. There's like a general Christian ethic that, you can say, oh, I now believe that lying is wrong, and so you don't lie. But, particularly revolving around lifestyle and maybe some of the encouragements that can come from friends and family that don't uphold that lifestyle, that'll maybe those encouragements or temptations that will come to you to, the pressure put on you of, oh, hey, I know that you do this now, but it used to be like this. Like, I think particularly in the area of, alcohol or, certain activities or, those pressures can come and they can be really...
The socially accepted boundary issues. Yeah.
That's right. That moment you come back to Christmas lunch the next year and you're not picking up a beer like that kind of thing was shocking to my family. Is and especially not just my family, they kind of cotton on to it pretty quickly regarding the decisions that I made. And I could also see that they were pretty positive as well. There were things that I needed to do, but especially my extended family, that was a big thing of, going to, hanging out with my family who I hadn't seen and, extended family who you don't see unless, every couple of years or whatever, and not picking up the beers with them or whatever. And there was some real raised eyebrows and, oh, mate, you picked up the wrong thing. And I would say like, oh, I don't drink anymore. And it's awkward. It was in those moments in those moments where the pressure comes in and it can even seem small and I'm not surrounded by my church friends, like those are the moments I think that you're most susceptible to fall to temptation. And this is where God is asking, be courageous for him. Hey guys, we'll see you tomorrow. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your day today, and stay tuned until we're back on The Breakfast Show live at 6 a.m.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.